Hi guys, I'm Samina and welcome to the Cupcake Confession where I show you how you can learn to make amazing decadent desserts and sweet treats. If this is something that you enjoy, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you do that, also don't forget to ding this little bell button. That way you will be notified every time I post a new recipe. Today I'm showing you how you can learn to make these amazing pistachio macarons with this delicious pistachio buttercream frosting. So let's get started. The very first thing you want to do is sift your oat flour and icing sugar together. Now, oat flour basically is just your quick cook rolled oats that you sort of put it into a blender or a food processor, and it comes out in this really fine powder, and that's what you want to pass through the sieve, because there is a possibility that there may be some large lumps of oats that didn't blend well. So it's very important to pass this through a sieve. Now I'm going to use my whisk and just combine the icing sugar and the oat flour together. Once I have done that, I'm going to put this away and we'll start working on our egg whites, because we want to get that to a stiff peak. So here I have room temperature egg whites, to which I've added some sea salt. Now on a very low speed first, using my electric beaters, I'll just keep beating this until it starts to get really nice and foamy. So as you can see at this stage, it looks really lumpy, and it's kind of what egg whites look like in their most natural state. But after about 2 to 3 minutes, you will see that their consistency changes considerably. So it starts to get really nice and foamy. After about or nearly at the 3-minute mark, you'll see that that's how foamy it becomes. And when you lift your beaters, it's already achieved stiff peaks. But you don't want it to have stiff peaks with its foamy stage. You want to add the caster sugar and make it really nice and glossy, and that's when it'll turn to soft peaks and then eventually to stiff peaks. So I would recommend not adding all of the caster sugar in one go, because there is a possibility it could deflate the egg whites. So really be slow and gentle. Add a little bit of the caster sugar at a time. The speed of the electric beaters at this stage is medium. So this takes about 3 minutes. So a total of 5 to 6 minutes have passed so far. As you can see now, that's soft peaks, because the minute you lift your beaters up, it sort of droops down. Now you will increase the speed to medium high, and that's sort of getting there to stiff peaks. This has been beating for about 2 minutes, so a total of about 8 minutes now. Now I'll add my food color. So I've gone for a nice olive green shade. You can choose the color that you like basically. And now for 1 minute on very high speed, you'll keep beating this, and eventually then when you lift your beaters, you have your stiff peaks. So now is the time to sort of add your icing sugar and oat flour mix. I am going to use my spatula, and first I'm just going to combine the dry mix with the stiff egg whites. Once they sort of start coming together, I'm going to use this motion to sort of deflate some of the air in the egg whites. So I go around the sides of the bowl, and then I swipe that mix really hard with my spatula in the center. So what this does is that it sort of deflates some of the air. Now as you can see, it's a really stiff mix, and you have just begun, and you will probably feel that there's something wrong with the ingredients, that it's too much and it's not going to work out. Keep mixing this the way I've explained in the video, just going around the sides and then swiping in the center. Now you try to make a figure 8, but as you could see, it didn't happen. It was just breaking apart, and that's an indicator that it's not ready yet. So you keep going in that same motion until it's very, very easy for the batter to sort of fall off the spatula. It still hasn't achieved that state, so we keep going around the sides and the center. Now as you can see, with the batter that's falling off the spatula, it does so in less than 10 seconds. And then I can also make my figure 8 without the batter splitting or not breaking apart from the rest of the string. So it's one continuous string, and I can make my figure 8 really easily. So this is a clear indicator that your macaron mix has been mixed really well. So the batter, so to speak, is ready. And now we are going to pipe this onto a parchment paper sheet. I have little circles drawn as an indicator, and I'm just going to hold the piping bag really perpendicular to the parchment paper. So a 90-degree angle must be maintained. If you try to shift the angle, it's just going to create funny macaron shapes. when they bake in the oven. So once that's done, then it's important that you sort of really wrap the tray hard. Now I have made really tiny circles here, as you can see, so you'll get many macarons, but if you make larger circles, you'll get fewer macarons. So depending on how many macarons you want, you can adjust the size. Now using your tray, you really need to wrap it very hard on the work surface. It will bring the air bubbles to the surface. Some of them will pop and some of them won't. It's important that you then use a wooden skewer or a toothpick or anything that has a pointed edge to sort of burst those bubbles, because you don't want it to dry out with the air bubbles still at the surface. So I like to use a wooden skewer and just sort of pop these bubbles, and while the skin of the macaron is still pretty wet, I'm going to add some crushed pistachios on top just to decorate it. It's very important that you do this before the macarons dry out, because then otherwise the pistachios won't stick to the shells. You're going to let this sit at room temperature for about 20 minutes or so, and then you're going to pop this into the oven. But before you do that, you're going to preheat the oven to 150C or 300F, and then you're going to bake these for about 12 minutes. You're going to let them sit at room temperature for about half an hour before peeling them off. Now we are making our pistachio buttercream. So here I have pistachio milk. It's a very delicious milk, flavored milk that you get here. And it's already sweetened, so I haven't added any sugar. And then I've just added some flour, and using my whisk, I'm just whisking it very rigorously to make sure any flour lumps inside this mix have broken down. Then I'm going to increase the heat to medium and keep beating this, keep whisking this while the mix boils for about 3 minutes. Then I'm going to take it out in a plate and let it cool down to room temperature. I like to pop this into the freezer, so it kind of really gives it a temperature shock and cools it down to room temperature. You can let it cool down at room temperature organically as well. Now here I have some softened salted butter, which is at room temperature again, and I'm going to use my electric beaters on medium speed to just sort of smooth it out. You don't want to make it light or fluffy, you just want to mix it until it's a nice smooth paste. Now here is my pudding mix at room temperature. So I'm going to add this a little at a time into my butter mix, and then first this buttercream will appear really grainy, but you have to keep mixing this on medium speed. Then I'm going to add the second batch of that pudding mix, and then I'm going to mix it again. Now halfway through, I'm going to use my spatula, go around the sides and bottom of the bowl, because as you can see, there are stray bits of some butter that's not mixed with the rest of the frosting, which is what we don't want. We want everything to be uniformly combined and well mixed. Once that's done, you're going to crank up the speed to high and then keep beating this for about 2 to 3 minutes. The texture and the consistency of this frosting really changes, and from that grainy, lumpy, weird looking frosting, it suddenly becomes a really smooth, light, fluffy frosting. If you don't have pistachio flavored milk where you live, you could use some pistachio paste as well. Depending on how you like the flavor, you can even add sugar if you want to sweeten this up, but I feel like with the macaron shells, it's just the perfect sweetness. Look how fluffy that frosting is. Now these are my macarons that I've cooled. I've used a Wilton 6B tip to pipe my frosting on, and I'm going to top it with my other shell. And here we have these pistachio macarons with oat flour. It's crisp on the outside, almost chewy, marshmallowy in the center, and that pistachio buttercream frosting is epic. If you have any comments or suggestions, pop them down in the comments below. I post a new recipe every Tuesday and Thursday, so if this is something that you enjoy and if you want to be notified every time I post a new recipe, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you do that, also don't forget to ding this little bell button. I'll see you again next time. Bye.